Well, there it is. First horror movie in the MCU, but horror. One that many believe is really pushing those PG-13 boundaries and, of course, is the introduction of some, pretty important characters. Spoilers for Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness inbound. Let's talk about it. So, as far as how this all affects the MCU, we have to start with what everyone's talking about, their cameos. Now, personally, I couldn't care less. I'm not really the cameo kind of guy, but in this instance, I got a kick out of them. Mostly because, well, dang! The Illuminati got merked, y'all! Yeah, finally, we get the Illuminati, the secret group of heroes who are seemingly always hiding away and pulling strings behind every major Marvel event, and kablammo! They're little more than a red stain on the carpet by the time that Wanda's done with them. What some people tend to forget about the Illuminati, at least based on how affronted some fans are at their deaths, is that the Illuminati in the comics, kinda sucks. They are not a villainous organization per se, but they aren't exactly doing a lot of good, and often wind up screwing things up in some capacity. So when I saw Wanda turn Mr. Fantastic into string cheese and turn Black Bolt's head into a saggy baby diaper, man, I got a kick out of that. Captain Carter getting Darth Mauled? Sick. Captain Marvel getting her power sucked out of her body and then crushed by a statue. Okay, that was less sick, but I'll take it. It's still cool. Oh, and Professor X, played by Patrick freakin Stewart, getting his neck snapped after being tricked by Wanda. Holy cow, y'all, I just about died. As someone who doesn't particularly like the Illuminati as a concept, this was rad. But how much does this affect the MCU? Well, mainly it shows us exactly where the new normal of the multiverse can take us from a narrative perspective. While there's still probably plenty of plot armor for most of our still in contract players and their main universe characters, that doesn't mean we can't have, say, a multiversal variant of Paul Rudd show up. Fully aged, of course, because this version doesn't have a Dorian Gray situation going on, only to be brutally taken out by whatever villain we have traipsing about, or perhaps even being the villain himself. And also we can just have like random celebrities playing major characters, you know, that Tom Cruise's Iron Man rumor from a while back, that could still happen because it's the multiverse. Anything's possible. You can have hot dogs for fingers. It's crazy. We can also, as seen in Spider-Man No Way Home, expand on stories seemingly rendered moot by the MCU and Disney acquiring properties like X-Men and the Fantastic Four. Speaking of which, it also shows us that as the multiverse expands, the opportunity for our heroes taking on multiple roles, even as villains, becomes more and more plausible. And perhaps, most importantly, it gives Kevin Feige and his team the opportunity to test out new actors before handing over a franchise for them to headline. Now this brings us, of course, to Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic, as portrayed by John Krasinski. Guys, when I say my crowd went wild when he showed up and he just plopped out of that blue portal thing, oh man, they loved it. Now, if you're someone who doesn't use the internet, well, first off, welcome to your first YouTube video, I guess. Weird place to start, but no judgment. Secondly, John Krasinski was, of course, a fan favorite for a long time to be cast as Reed Richards. So much fan art, oh my god, so much fan art was created, and it seemed like something that could never come true just by virtue of it practically becoming a meme at this point. Of course, Marvel is pretty chill with adopting memes when they so wish. So, surprise, surprise, John freakin Krasinski shows up as Reed Richards, and he is, fine, I guess? I know I'll get hate in the comments, which that wouldn't really be anything new, but guys, I don't really see it myself. He's not bad, and I like Krasinski, so I'm certainly open to him headlining Fantastic Four, but, I don't know, it just doesn't fit for me the way it seems to for so many. And yes, I know there are comics where Reed is modeled after him, yada yada yada. However, one point I'll give this version, Reed Richards in the comics, kind of an arrogant dick. This version of Reed Richards, very much an arrogant dick, making his comeuppance after trying to scare off Wanda with Black Bolt's powers all the more hilarious. I love that moment. It's so Reed. So anyway, we have a Reed Richards, one step closer to the Fantastic Four being fully cast, and by the way, he does mention that he has kids, so Franklin Richards, also around in this universe, so that is one step closer to our little god king of a child showing up. Anyway, I'm off track. That's all if this turns out to be the one we get in the main continuity. Obviously, with Spider-Man, there are different versions of Peter Parker played by different actors, while with Doctor Strange, we just get more Benedict Cumberbatch. Like, what, y'all couldn't wheel out Peter Hooton? Maybe bring in Jeffrey Combs as a cheeky nod to Full Moon's Dr. Mordred? Whatever. I'm the guy who just said he doesn't care about cameos, so, not a big deal, but, precedent has been set.
I'll drink your blood and feed on your flesh, and it will taste sweet.
Anyway, with Reed Richards being introduced to the MCU in whatever capacity this turns into, one has to ask, could this be the first step toward one of Marvel's greatest villains? And we'll come back to that in just a bit. Now, if you stayed for the mid-credits scene, which, who doesn't at this point? Come on. You might have been slightly befuddled by Charlize Theron showing up as some chick dressed in purple, opening up portals with some sick knives. Comic book fans, or at least Doctor Strange comic book fans, will have recognized her as playing Clea, the niece of Dormammu, and the Sorcerer Supreme of the Dark Dimension. She does also become Sorcerer Supreme of it doesn't matter. She also eventually marries Doctor Strange in the comics, so for all you folks who wanted to see a movie where Sherlock Holmes and Imperator Furiosa shack up, you're in luck. Now when Clea pops up, she tells Strange that he's caused an incursion and that they have to go fix it, before opening up a portal to the Dark Dimension. Strange opens his recently acquired third eye, suggesting that's not a euphemism, guys. It's not a euphemism. Grow up. Suggesting he's been corrupted to some degree by the Darkhold, or perhaps is even still using it to some degree. I just said some degree twice. Can y'all tell that I'm super sick right now and I just want to physically die? Because that's where I'm at. Anyway, dude has a photographic memory, so, he could have just memorized the Darkhold, which is, a very Doctor Strange thing to do. Now, the fact that there's another incursion sort of ties back to the Illuminati, because in the comics, they love to stop incursions, and sometimes that means they just gotta destroy an entire universe.
Your desecration of reality will not go unpunished.
As I said, these guys kind of suck, and after what is frankly a whole lot and too much story for this video, in time runs out, Doctor Doom winds up taking on the task of saving the universes and defeat, or at least the 616 universe. The specifics of that story don't matter too much since it's unlikely we'll get those exact events, but this all leads to the 616 and 1610 universes colliding, the latter being the Ultimate Universe. This brings us to Secret Wars, which many, myself included, believe will be the event that brings together all them properties gobbled up by Disney, and could very well reset the main continuity. When the MCU decided to tackle the Infinity Saga, it was both a monumental task and sort of a no-duh moment. After all, you introduce Infinity Stones and Thanos, you're obviously going to arrive at the snap eventually. With Phase 4 increasingly focusing on the multiverse, it seems like the most obvious place to go is the 2015 comic book arc Secret Wars, itself a sort of spin-off from 1984 Secret Wars, which was in and of itself a big toy commercial wherein the heroes and villains of Earth are selected by the Beyonder to battle it out on, well, Battleworld. However, while that arc is very important within Marvel Comics and even gave us Peter's symbiote suit for the first time, it's unlikely that event is where we're heading. The 2015 arc, though, that seems like that's the one. Multiverse of Madness appears to be just one of many MCU properties in Phase 4 slowly building toward, well, a whole bunch of multiversal madness, including What If, which was our first real taste of just straight up insane multiversal shenanigans that we thought would show up in Multiverse of Madness, only to wind up really mostly inconsequential outside of Captain Carter popping up. Going back a bit though, in Shang-Chi we discover in the mid-credits scene that the 10 Rings are actually sending out some sort of beacon, but the technology they are composed of does not seem to exist in that universe. In Eternals, we see 3 of our heroes teleported off to some mysterious place without much explanation, other than Arishem stating that he'll be using their memories to judge humanity. This leads into the mid-credits, wherein we are introduced to Thanos' brother Eros, aka Star Fox, and Pip the CGI monstrosity. Eros explains cryptically that he knows where those Eternals are and how to get to them. Now, this could wind up being a whole swath of things, including something limited strictly to a potential Eternal sequel, but it's my opinion that all of these little stingers are leading to the same destination. Not Black Widow's stinger, though. That was just setting up Hawkeye and the new Avengers. the latter of which will no doubt have a part to play in this big event. So actually, yeah, I guess they're all in service to one another. I also have my own personal theory about how Secret Invasion ties into this, and how Nick Fury on that spaceship at the end of Far From Home ties in, but that's a whole other video. I'm getting way off topic already. Anyway, Spider-Man No Way Home, of course, was an intro to the multiverse for the film side of the MCU, so that one kind of speaks for itself. This came after Loki, which is the first MCU property to really dig into the concept, outside of Mysterio using it as a fake-out in Far From Home. In the Loki finale, a variant of Kang the Conqueror explains how a multiversal conflict in which his variants fought for their own realities led to the creation of the Time Variance Authority. This, of course, leads to Sylvie ending his life, which then allows for the multiverse to spread unimpeded, leading us to where we are now, talking about incursions. So anyway, that event was the first tip-off that we'd be heading into Secret Wars. In this story, Dr. Doom winds up taking the powers of the Beyonders and lording over a pocket dimension where he is a self-appointed god and even has his own security force called the Thor Court. And Doctor Strange, who couldn't handle doing what Doom did to save the universe, is his sheriff. Comics. This world crafted by Doom is our new battle world, and we're quickly introduced to the survivors of the incursion that destroyed the other universes, specifically the Cabal, a bunch of baddies, along with Miles Morales, who just kind of like tags along, and the remaining Avengers, both of whom survived via these multiversal life raft things. And again, it's a whole thing, people. Comics, they're crazy. There's also a ton of other heroes and villains across Battleworld who don't remember their past before its creation, including a giant Ben Grimm, and I love him so much. Point is, this provides us our setup for a massive conflict across Battleworld and a perfect finale for what is quickly becoming a truly massive Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, how this will play out is really anyone's guess. Marvel is very good at taking comic book storylines, distilling them, and forming something new to fit their needs and stable of characters. The introduction of a bunch of celebrities in roles like Eros and Clea works well here, since they probably won't be needed for much before the big conflict. And with Kang introduced, a variant of his could easily replace the Beyonder. Or, I just thought about this, what if they just nix almost all of the story, and it's just Dr. Doom collecting all of these people, all these heroes and villains, to fight on Battleworld as a means of narrowing down the Earths, sort of like it's a cross with 1984 Secret Wars, and they use the whole idea of Doom as a pseudo-god, and maybe like Eros is part of his cult, and his... No, that's stupid. I'm being stupid. This is stupid. So, will this all come to pass? Will we get Battleworld, the whole Secret Wars saga, all that jazz? I think so. But it also seems like this could very well be a Phase 5 or even Phase 6 conclusion. After all, it did take until the end of Phase 3 for us to get Thanos' big defeat, so this could be Marvel playing the long con, which, fair enough. There's a lot to set up, and I feel like if he's not introduced beforehand, Dr. Doom will at least make his presence known in the upcoming Fantastic Four film, and no doubt be the big bad leading into Avengers Secret Wars, or whatever title they manage to come up with. As it stands, Multiverse of Madness brings us one step closer to Secret Wars, whatever form it might take, and we shouldn't be surprised if Strange and Clea are at the forefront, perhaps ending whole other universes to save that of the MCU. And finally, with all of that confusing stuff out of the way, let's focus on what I personally found to be the most refreshing thing about Multiverse of Madness. Baby, we got horror in the MCU.
Groovy.
While we've had our fair share of genre bending within the MCU, Ant-Man is a comedy, for example, and of course there's the whole zombies episode in What If, generally speaking, the films and shows try to stick to standard superhero fare. Not Doctor Strange, though. With the hiring of Sam Raimi, Marvel gave a lot of credence to the idea of this being the MCU's first horror movie. And while it still works in the usual beats, there's no doubt that Doctor Strange leans pretty hard into horror territory. From the Evil Dead-esque POV cam possessing Earth 838's Wanda, to Strange possessing his own variant's corpse and forcing a bunch of horrific demons into becoming his new cloak, this thing is metal as all hell, y'all. And heck, that bit where Wanda breaks her own body to force it through a reflection? Man. What I'm getting at here is perhaps we'll see more risks in the format of these big blockbusters. And hell, with all the violence, maybe we'll see more of the darker side of the Marvel Universe. With Blade happening and Midnight Sun's a big possibility, the total wrecking of the Illuminati and that Raimi touch seem to point toward this as a litmus test for those more adult-oriented and supernatural characters, as well as just, you know, giving directors a little bit more leeway to leave their mark on this franchise. And yeah, Doctor Strange 2 didn't really have the drastic impact that many thought it would, but there's no doubt that it is a significant entry in the franchise. And hey guys, in the comments, just let me know if I messed up any of the stuff. I have not had time to go back and reread these comics. Oh god. I'm going back to bed.